All right. The lights are green, the tubes are open. Tonight is not the night to fuck with me. If no one ever watches the end of the show, Rett loves to mess with me by at the end of the show going... Anyway, welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 366. Your once-weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm Rett.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Spotify or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, sometimes some Star Trek, although I don't think we have any Star Trek tonight. And I'm going to give fair warning in the chat. It has been the longest 3 days of a week for a lot of Americans in a very long time. This is going to be a politic-free zone. Any rage baiting will be met with an immediate and permanent ban. You have been warned. It is both in writing in the description, and I just told you. We're not doing it tonight. I don't care if you're a crypto bro. I don't care who you think wins or didn't win or what you think of new policies. We're not talking new policies tonight. We're not talking changes. We're not talking executive orders. We're talking literally anything else. You've been warned. Let's see. If you've never seen the show before, welcome. I'm usually not that aggressive out front, but welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the show. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. All super chats are read in the air so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. But an even better way to help support the channel is going over to craftcomputing.store, pick up some of our fantastic merch. We've got pint glasses, we've got whiskey stones, we've got stone engraved coasters, all 100% designed in-house and made in-house by me. It's a fantastic way to get some merch and help keep the lights on around here. Last but not least, another way you can support the channel is heading on over to Patreon. Patreon.com/craftcomputing. Not only will you, again, help support the channel, but you get exclusive access to my Discord channel, where you will, gosh, I'm just losing the plot already. Get access to the exclusive Discord, where you can chat with myself, as well as the other hosts from Talking Heads, and the awesome community that hangs out over there. Welcome to the show, everyone.
All right, we did it.
Zosef says, and YouTube drama? I didn't have it in the notes, but I might touch on that because I do have some strong opinions there. I know people are also probably tired of hearing about the YouTube trauma, the LTT versus GN. I have some very strong opinions of this situation in particular. I've had these strong opinions for a long time, and I'm kind of out of reasons to stop voicing them, or to not be voicing them. So we might get into that later. But I need a drink first. Let's see. When are your temp monitors being released? I don't have... Is it here? It is right there. Hold on. Haha.
Aha.
We are very, very close. I literally just ordered. So for those who don't know, last year we released a beta product. This is called Project Axe Effect. It is a rack-mounted temperature sensor, which sounds kind of stupid at first until you realize that recording and being alerted to accurate temperatures in a server rack is actually kind of difficult to do. There's not a company that does it great unless you're willing to spend $1,000. If you spend $500 on a solution from that hooks up to your UPS unit like APC or Eaton or any of those, or you go with a dedicated solution like NetAlarm or Room Alert or whatever that solution is, they're not very accurate, and they're expensive as hell. So we introduced this. This one's a Wi-Fi temperature sensor and USB for power and configuration, and this was $60. And it is accurate to 0.3 degrees Celsius with a fidelity of 0.01 degrees Celsius. It is an incredibly accurate temperature sensor, and it works over SNMP. So that's where the idea started. The number one request was get rid of the Wi-Fi and give us power over Ethernet. So that took us down a journey that ended up being way longer than I anticipated because of a number of difficulties of designing our own PoE circuitry and having the whole thing work. But I'm holding in my hand our first working prototype of the temperature sensor. So this is the final form factor. We did 3D print the end caps for this, although these are actually going to be made out of FR4 PCB material. So it'll actually be much more rigid than a 3D print and look a lot nicer too. But yeah, this is the final form factor. This is a PoE device. You can actually power it from a 12 volt barrel jack, or actually it'll accept 12 to 60 volts DC, or you can do 24 or 54 volts power over Ethernet. And this plugs in. It uses the basically the exact same firmware as our beta units did. Exact same temperature sensor. However, this one's got a little trick up its sleeve. There's another jack that you see right here on back. This is to connect to the probe that's going to go on the rear of the rack. And on the final unit, there's another jack up here for the probe that goes on the front of the rack. You get 2 thermal probes. We're still working on pricing, and I don't want to get into politics. We're not going to talk about tariffs or what bled me dry today buying the prototype boards. But I ordered 40 prototype boards for validation literally this morning. So as soon as those come in, we will start validating. We're also going to get them out to some industry partners and possibly to some other tech reviewers. We're going to see what they think about them. And we basically, within a week of receiving the prototype boards, we're going to launch a pre-order campaign. And we'll be ready to move in mass. So I'm very much looking forward to that. But yeah, here is the final form factor of the unit. So nice little, it is all aluminum. It's an aluminum enclosure. So pretty high quality. I'm looking forward to it. So I imagine we will launch maybe the first week of March. It's going to be about 4 weeks for me, it looks like, to get boards in. Part of that is because we ran right up against the lunar holiday, Chinese New Year. And so factories are shutting down for a week. And of course, I put my order in 7 days before the lunar holiday starts. So we're going to have that gap in the middle. But yeah, the current plan is to get these in hopefully the last week of February, do all of my validation testing, do some final firmware tweaks, and then post a video and start taking pre-orders. So that'll be fun. Yeah. Rhett, what are you drinking tonight?
Well, Jeff, just given the firm line in the sand that you opened this show with, I'm taking your cautions to heart. I don't want to be banned permanently, so I'm drinking a non-alcoholic beer tonight. This is Athletic Brewing Company Upside Dawn Golden Ale, and I've already actually have one in my cup right now, but I have another unopened one here, and it's good. Anybody who's had these before knows that these are probably kind of like the benchmark standard of like non-alcoholic craft beers right now. And you go to the grocery store and everybody has their own NA beer, which is kind of neat. Deschutes had one, I saw. Every domestic seems to have one now, which is kind of neat. But yeah, it's good. Yeah. Upside Dawn. So there you go.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say about it.
Athletic
tastes fine.
Athletic Brewing, fantastic. I like pretty much all the flavors. I think my top one is their Wild Ride IPA. But yeah, I've had the golden before. I've had their lager before. I've had their hazy before.
The hazy is pretty good.
Hazy's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah. But we all know how my tongue has a tendency to just start flapping on its own. So we're going to try to rein it in a little bit. And, I guess it works out for anybody who's following along doing dry January trying to put the bars and the breweries and the tap houses out of business this month.
Yep.
Which is just so funny to me that apparently actually it's a big enough thing that like they're feeling it this year.
Yeah.
But
the only political thing I'll say is I bet a lot of people started drinking again on Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. For me tonight, I think I'm gonna be pretty good, but I definitely I need some chutzpah tonight. I need something. So we are going with a Bluesky. This is made from Bluesky in St. Paul, Montreal. This is the Coco Palmer Brownie Stout, clocking in at 10%. Chocolate, cocoa nibs, vanilla, and lactose added. 10%. And the can art is pretty freaking incredible as well. So
I love that.
Yeah,
that was good.
It's pretty awesome. Green checking into chat, sends over $2. Thank you, Green. Driving home, can't type. Again, many thank yous. If you haven't watched my video that I posted on Friday, that is Green Protagonist, and he is the proud new owner of an Epic 7F52 server with an RTX A5000. So me and a couple people on the Patreon, on the Discord, Yakto and the Fat Hacker teamed up and got him a brand new server so he could test out some vGPU stuff. So, Green, I hope you are enjoying it. And from what I've heard and from what I've read, he's enjoying it.
I think there was another super chat up above too.
Oh, did I miss one? I did. Daryl sends over 2 Aussie bucks. I am Australia. Can we shit talk about our idiots? Oof.
It's open season on Australian politics,
Yeah,
baby.
ooh.
Let's go.
Yeah, should we just do Australian shit talk tonight? Like, that might be fun.
I have to, it would be funny as if I came prepared with like actual knowledge of Australian
Yeah,
politics.
just start dropping.
Just switch gears. But alas, I did not.
I do feel woefully underprepared for that question. Like a test I haven't studied for. Fair play, Daryl. Oh. It said brownie stout. And speaking of being woefully underprepared, as the Russians would say, that is thick like brownie. This is a beer I'm going to have to chew my way through.
Oh
man. It's going to be a good show, I hope.
Yeah.
We've got RTX 5090 leaks like you wouldn't believe, including 2 cards that you haven't seen yet. We've got a 5090 Ti. We've got an alleged workstation card with 96 gigabytes of memory. We have some leaked 5090 3D Mark numbers. We're going to talk about some AI stuff. Most of it bad. AI. The thing to remember about AI is it's incredibly powerful, but the cat's kind of out of the bag, and as good as some AI stuff is getting for legitimate use, it's also got some very nefarious uses that are also cropping up like wildfire. And yeah, maybe some of it's not so good. Let's see. We've got some news on the Radeon 9070 GPUs. We've got a release date and maybe some reasons for why those were kind of like they were in the slide deck at CES, and then they're like, oh yeah, AMD goes, by the way, we have some GPUs. Moving on. like they were expected to be launched at CES, and then they just went radio silence for a month. And we think we know why now, and we have an actual date. And in 3D printing news, bricklayers. The technique of staggering your 3D printing layers to significantly improve 3D printing strength is now open source. So we might touch on that towards the end of the show. Let's see. Did you see any beer shoutouts worth mentioning in the chat there, Rhett?
Oh, I mean, everybody's got a beer shout out worth mentioning, but I see that somebody is drinking an Elysian Juice Dust for tonight. That's one of my favorites. Man, and that guy is over here with a 14% Pig's Fly Quintuple IPA from Black Stack Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota. Sounds good.
That's a good one.
Oh,
that's
gosh.
a really good one.
a little jealous of what people have out there tonight, but I'll try and make do with my athletic.
Let's see. Craig Putnam's got a Macallan 12-year Scotch, sipping slowly. Hope it lasts an hour. Chris has a Kirkland rum and Dr. Pepper. If I could be so bold, if you're going to do a rum and Coke or a rum and pepper, I always urge you to go full Cuba Libre, which is squeeze a wedge of lime into the glass before you pour in the soda, and also add like 3 dashes of like an Angostura bitters or an aromatic bitters. It opens up the flavor so much in a rum and Coke and a rum and pepper. Like a rum and Coke is really good, but a Cuba Libre is otherworldly good. Like it is a night and day difference. Just drop in a little lime juice and then 2 or 3 dashes of Angostura. You will thank me later. Let's see. Harley's drinking a 3 Floyds Arctic Panzerwolf Imperial IPA, 9%. John O'Brien's got some St. Teresa Venezuelan rum, which is not illegal to have, in case anyone is wondering. He put in quotations there. Oft Infinity's got an Innocent Gun Blood Red Sky Rum Barrel Aged Red, 6.8%. That sounds good. Speaking of a red, Ninkasi came out with a new red ale that's a double red. It's a 9.5%. And I haven't found it yet, but Hops and Brews was teasing me about it on the Discord earlier this week, that he managed to find a 6-pack, and he goes, it's good.
Nice.
Let's see. We'll do one more here. Tyler's got a Hood Rover Ferment. Hood Rover Ferment Brewing Company. Take Me to the River Northwest IPA, 6.8%. Is that a Hood River or Hood Rover? He typed in Hood Rover.
Well, I mean, the O and the I are nowhere near each other on the keyboard, so.
Right.
Hood Rover. Hood Rover, Hood Rover. Come on over.
Yes. Bring the hops on over.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
All right. I see a lot of people asking questions. I love the questions. Although Cheese says, I really need to head to Total Wine and get ingredients to make a Brandy Alexander. Yes, you do. I suggest you put me in some AirPods and you just go do that. Just like head on over to Total Wine, listen to Talking Heads in your AirPods. You can have some fantastic bevies when you get back. I think it's a great plan. And Veronica says chocolate. This is chocolate. This literally tastes like brownie. It does not taste like a stout. It does not have any amount of roastiness to it. My reaction is to start chewing it. Like, that's how thick it is. It tastes like a brownie. That's all I can That's the review. Done. But it's also 10%.
Ship it.
Ship it. It says like a brownie, and it has booze. Done.
Rev said, we'll see you in the after party, and I'm sure he was talking about whoever needs to go to Total Wine, but I also imagine he is talking right to you.
Yeah. Also, yes. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive into some news. Starting with, we've got the rumor mill flying for the RTX 5090 and variants that have not been announced yet. I wonder why. It's not like the card is on the eve of being, revealed officially with benchmarks and everything else. Like, I can't imagine why all of a sudden we're getting all these leaks. Oh. Technically, reviews can go live at 6 a.m. My review is not quite done. I am, as I tend to do, taking a little bit of a different angle with the review. And I can't talk about it yet because it's not 6 a.m. yet. You'll have to wait 12 hours. But my review, maybe end of day tomorrow, more likely Friday morning when the rest of the 5090s, the board partner reviews can go live. But I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts on the 5090, and it's not just a benchmark video. So if you want benchmarks and numbers, there's lots of people who are doing that. I'm doing some benchmarks. I did a lot of benchmarks. I got like 400 data points worth of benchmarks between just 3 graphics cards. It took me 3 straight days of benchmarking. But I also have some thoughts, so we'll get into those. But not today, because I can't talk about it today. What I can talk about today is things that are unofficial, and things that I didn't discover myself or NVIDIA didn't send to me. And one of those is an alleged RTX 5090 prototype with about 10% more CUDA cores, almost 15% more CUDA cores, 24,000. I always do that because I'm so used to CUDA core counts being four digits still. 24,576 CUDA cores, 800 watt TDP, and 32 gigs of GDDR7 memory. This is using a GB202, which I do need to refresh my memory on what the exact die... Yeah, GB202. Okay. So the retail 5090, the one that we're all reviewing, is a GB202-400A1. This is a GB202-200. So same physical size, but a slightly different die, slightly different layout. If I can direct your attention up to the upper right of this, right here, you will remember that the 12-volt high-power cable, even the top-end spec of it, is only capable of delivering 600 watts. This is an 800-watt card, which means it has 2 of those.
God.
And I thought the lights dimmed already. I think I can say this because I'm not giving any numbers away, but I did at one point put the 5090 into my Threadripper rig, my 7980X 64-core Threadripper rig, and I hit benchmark. And my UPS did not like that. As soon as the benchmark loaded, it just started screaming.
Bob says 2 fire hazards for the price of 1.
Now, I didn't say what my UPS's rating is, or what its UVA or its official output is, so I didn't give any numbers away there. So I have not broken NDA, but I will say my UPS did not like that. Need a nuclear fusion reactor for that card? Yes, basically yes. God, that is so much brownie. So yeah, 24,576 CUDA cores. That is up from the 21,760 CUDA cores. Let's see what that 5 576 divided by 21,760. That's a 13% increase over the stock, over the 5080. And I will remind you that the 5090 has basically double the CUDA cores of the RTX 5080 that is coming out, which is about 10,260 if I remember correctly. Yeah, 24,576. That's a spicy little card. Although what I will say is you hear in the press release and in the in Jensen's keynote that he gave at CES that they wanted to do some small form factor cards, and I saw this card at CES, but then you actually like behind glass. I saw this card at CES. I didn't have a meeting specifically with NVIDIA, but I did with a lot of board partners, and all the board partner cards were the traditional 3.5 slot, 16 inches long, triple fan monstrosities. And then this arrived, and it is 2 slots. It's just 2 slots. RTX 5090 right there, 2 slots.
Not too bad.
We all knew that it was only 2 slots, but then you actually get the card and you actually hold it and you go, holy crap, it's actually 2 slots. I didn't know NVIDIA knew how to do that anymore. Another card that's expected to be just 2 slots, but maybe with a slightly different design because it's designed for workstations and data centers, are a potential workstation flagship card that is upcoming. It has been revealed that NVIDIA has some potential plans for a workstation card. That should be obvious. Likely based on Blackwell, but with 96 gigabytes of GDDR7. Whew. That's a substantial increase. The RTX 6000 Ada, for comparison, which is their top-end workstation card, is 48 gigabytes of GDDR6. So, yeah, and that shares the same AD102 as the RTX 4090, but has 48 gigs of RAM instead of 24. So instead of getting just double the RAM from the consumer card, we're getting triple the RAM from the consumer card. That's a pretty good leap. So yeah, those looking to do AI processing at home or AI training at home, not just inferencing, but actual training. That card's going to be on your short list, I imagine. Now, the interesting thing is the 5090 is going to use 2 gigabyte GDDR7 memory modules. However, the laptop GPU is going to utilize 3 gigabyte GDDR7 modules. And that's actually going to be the same modules that's utilized in their workstation card, the same 3 gigabyte individual chips. So for what it's worth. But yeah, unfortunately, that's pretty much all the information that we have on it. We have some NVIDIA-looking SKUs, some SKU numbers. That's the 699 2G153. Those are very NVIDIA formatted. But 96 gig GDDR7.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Likely what we're looking at there is either an RTX 6000 or RTX 8000 Blackwell, or whatever they end up calling their professional series moving forward. Because in NVIDIA's professional series of cards, I swear they hired AMD's naming team over the years. Like, AMD cannot keep a product name for more than 2 generations without just screwing with things and overwriting, previous generation cards, like calling it a Gen 2 or something like that. Because we've gone from, it was originally Quadro cards, but they dropped the Quadro from their name and then simply started naming them RTX when RTX signifiers came in. But it was still RTX Quadro for a while for the Turing generation. And then for Ampere, they dropped Quadro and named it the RTX A. So we had the RTX 6000 Quadro, which was like the top end Turing. And then we had the RTX A6000, which was the Ampere-based RTX Quadro card. And then we had the RTX 6000 Ada, which was the Ada Lovelace generation. So is this going to be the RTX B6000? Because FU, that's why? I don't know.
That's what happens when you let engineers control your naming scheme.
Yeah.
Stop yawning, Rett.
That's still a lot of chocolate. Is this your OnlyFans with the RTX 5090? Well, what's really cool about the 5090 is you can see through it on both sides. So if you haven't seen the cooling solution for the 5090, it's impressive and it's fun. I can't talk much more beyond that, but I have some thoughts about the cooling solution. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you watch my video probably Friday morning on the RTX 5090. Coffee and Cynicism says, Craft Computing, if only you had a 240 volt UPS you could make use of. Yeah, I have a 3000 VA 240 volt UPS out in my garage, as it turns out. It's for my server rack as soon as I upgrade the server rack to 240 volts. I just haven't done it yet.
Gotta get on that. Come on, Jeff. You don't have any projects going on.
Right. I've got nothing going on. I was meeting up with a bunch of people at CES for a lot of them. It's the first time I've seen them in person in like 5 years because the last CES that I went to was 2020. I've seen a couple of them here and there. Like the guys from Be Quiet and Fractal, they're at a lot of other events that I go to. Yeah. They sponsor PDX LAN. And then there's a couple others that I've seen at various events throughout the years and whatnot. But most people, it's the first time I've seen them in 5 years. And they're like, Jeff, how's it going? What's going on? And I said, well, I didn't think running one business by myself was enough work. So I'm starting a second business that I'm also running by myself.
Jeff has so much time that today, I'm sitting at my desk and it's like, here comes Craft Computing playing Red Dead Redemption 2. And I'm like, heck yeah, man, must be nice. And then it goes away. And then it's like, here comes Craft Computing playing the next game that he's benchmarking.
Rhett's going down his alphabetical list going, oh, I get it now.
And seriously, at first I was like, wow, that's good for him. He found some free time. I'm so happy.
He's got a couple hours. Okay. All right. Yep. A lot of my friends have commented they can, even if nothing's been announced, they can tell when a new GPU is coming out.
Right, yeah.
Just by being friends with me. I don't have a shop Craft Computing Steam account. Well, I do, but it has like 3 games on it. Right. But I do have just my personal account, which has like 900 games on it. And so that's what I do all my testing on. So yeah, if you want an insider peek of not only that a GPU is coming out, but what level of GPU is coming out based on what games he's playing. Craft, what's your dark brew tonight? That is the Bluesky Tight Cocoa Palmer from Bluesky Brewing up in St. Paul, Montreal. It's a 10%. They call it literally a brownie stout. And it's all of that. Dang. Yeah, Der Bauer reverse engineered the 5090. Awesome cooling solution for sure. I have some other thoughts, not just around like the engineering, because the engineering on this thing is dope. It's really, really cool. And speaking of engineering, you can see where this cooler design came from in our next story, actually. So great segue. Sorry, I just saw a comment. Uber Sprite says 96 gigs is more than my total combined RAM. What's really fun is if you watched my video on Friday where I built the PC for Green. That was the Epic 7F52 with 256 gigs of DDR4. At one point, just to troll him, I put 3 RTX A5000s in there, which has a combined 96 gigabytes of video memory. So there you go.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
But where's the leaked 4090 Ti? Where's that story? I could have swore I put the link in there. I didn't. Shoot. Where's it at?
You better grab it from the notes. Yeah, because that's the only other.
Is it on their main page? Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay, I found it. It's a video cards heavy front end of the show because they happen to have all the data that we were wanting to look at. NVIDIA finally shows off its quad slot triple fan RTX 40/Titan prototype with a rotated PCB. So again, like we're looking at the 5090 and its double blow through design, it still has a PCB that is perpendicular to the motherboard. The PCI slot goes into the board and it sits like this, right? Well, they were looking at all kinds of new cooler designs and form factors and things like that. And they ended up, I think this shot tells it all right here. They have the PCI slot and then the board sits perpendicular to the PCI slot. So it ends up sitting parallel to the motherboard, with then a thin connector that goes around to the dual 12-pin or a 12-volt high-power jacks here up on the bottom. And then your inputs are stacked vertically because your PCB is vertical, but your PCIe connector is still perpendicular. Really interesting design because they were trying to maximize the amount of volume of heatsink that they could accommodate on this design. And so the easiest thing to do was eliminate the board that sits perpendicular that you're trying to blow air into and then out of. Put the PCB as far to the side as you can and then just have a giant blow-through cooler. Yeah. You've got all this volume that you can take advantage of. It's a really interesting design, and you can see some of the inspiration for this design in the 5090 cooler with the small PCB in the center and then the fins that extend across both ends and then dual blow through. So it blows through both sides of the cards. Very similar to the way we heat or we cool CPUs. It's just a massive heatsink volume on top of a CPU. So interesting to see where the design came from. Whether or not, I'm sure the 4090 Ti is a cool card and everything else, but the design and the idea was there. Like, that's a really cool design. I shudder to think of the price point of this, though. If NVIDIA shelved it for being too expensive, I don't want to know. Anyway, the other thing that we had is some 5090 3D Mark benchmarks have leaked out. And I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, it wasn't me.
But he's legally required to say that, so...
Right. Well, previously, I I have actually benchmarked unreleased cards on 3D Mark, and I didn't realize my scores weren't hidden by default, so I actually had to go through and like my 3D Mark thing and delete scores. Luckily, I was never caught. But it happens because if you have auto upload and then auto validate and then auto post and have your thing as public, it could show up. It could show up somewhere. Yeah. And with the amount of people scraping data off sites now, it's almost instantaneous. But I can say I have never leaked GPU information early. But at least through my own testing. Yeah, someone uploaded scores to 3D Mark, and we've got Firestrike, both the standard, the extreme, and the ultra version, 36% higher than the RTX 4090. Gosh, I wish someone was on record last week of saying they're expecting about a 40% uplift generationally between the 4090 and the 5090. I wish there was someone who had done some math and said maybe 40%. 36% uplift in Firestrike, 33% in TimeSpy, and 46% for other tests, that is Speedway, Port Royal, and Steel Nomad. The interesting thing about those is everyone goes, oh, those are ray traced. Steel Nomad is not ray traced. Steel Nomad is pure rasterization in DX12 Ultimate. Speedway is DX12 Ultimate with RTX. And Port Royal is DirectX 12 with ray trace. And so we're seeing a 46% uplift in the higher end APIs like DirectX 12 Ultimate with or without the added benefit of ray tracing. Gosh, I wish there was someone on record saying somewhere between 40 and 55% is the expected uplift based on math on CUDA cores, because we know what Blackwell is on the data center side, and we know what FP16 and FP32 performance is on the data center side. We can directly compare that with the Ada cards that were already out, both on the data center side and the consumer side. So I wonder if someone did the math last week on this. I guess we'll never know. Okay, I'm done patting myself on the back. Anyway, so we do have some actual numbers. So Speedway RTX 5090 has a total score of 14,383. Whereas the 4090 got a score of 10,065. The 4080 Super landed a score of 7442, or roughly half the performance of the 5090. And then the 7900 XTX trails even further behind at 6349, or only 44% of the performance of the 5090. Steel Nomad, we see a 45% improvement, 14,133 versus a 9216 on the 4090. And then the 4080 Super and the 7900 XTX coming in at roughly half the performance of the 5090. Port Royal, only a 31% lead over the 4090 in Port Royal. And then 25% there, 24% there. So, you know. But it is definitely faster. It is definitely an uplift. I think that's all I can say. Because I have actual numbers that I've recorded, so I can't speculate. I can only say what's on the page here. I can't speculate, because speculation would be me telling you my results. So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, don't do that, Jeff.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway. I warned him. I warned everyone.
I mean, Rev says the guy might have been joking, and now I feel bad, but I mean, I didn't ban him. He's just muted.
Right.
He's just timed out.
He's fine. Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Yep.
What happens when I have to drink an NA beer on this channel? You're going to get me using some mod powers.
That's
all
right. Jeff not leaking things in advance. AMD would like to know your location. Screw you. I will say it was really fun. I have a great relationship with the folks over at NVIDIA, with the folks over at AMD, with the folks over at Intel, and a lot of the board partners that everyone knows. I finally feel like I have enough contacts to actually do my job properly. If I wanted to get into like super in-depth technical analysis, like, hey, I need this part. Yeah, we got that part. Nope, no problem. We'll get it to you 2 days from now. Like, I'm finally in that position. I finally have that amount of respect in the industry, and that feels great. But what was really great is walking into AMD's presentation room after accidentally breaking embargo by scheduling a video 24 hours before it was supposed to come out. My rep coming over and immediately like punching me in the rib, and I'm going, hi guys, how's it going? Don't hate me. But honest mistake. They can deal with honest mistakes. I appreciate those guys. My Discord pings are coming through the stream. My apologies.
Yeah, it's probably me too.
No, that's Rett, dang it.
I'm over here. I'm like having conversations with the mods.
Yeah.
Like in the back. So I just hopefully muted Discord on my laptop. So
I had changed the speaker to go through here, which is how I'm capturing your audio. Is any output to this device goes immediately to OBS. If I set my primary output to a different speaker, like my TV or my monitor in front of me, then the Discord pings come through there and they don't come through here. But if I have to adjust the volume in here, I have to set the primary on Windows back through here, unless I want to bring up the full volume mixer, which no one ever does.
Right.
So I just set the primary to this, and I'm like, I need to turn you up like 2 or 3 notches, and then Discord beeps through here. More like embargo ahead. Thank you, Veronica. Damn it, Bobby, and your Discords. Mod chat go burr. Yes.
I did a little bit of modding, and everyone's like, Rett, what are you doing? No. Whoops. Sorry, guys. Hey, next time, don't go refill your drinks. All right. You're gonna leave me in charge. You're asking for trouble. All right. I just heard it again, but I muted it all the way.
I didn't hear it, so that's all on you.
What?
Yep. It's not me. It's not me,
God,
baby.
that's annoying.
Yeah, blame Rett. Blame Rett for the Discord pings. It was Rett the whole time.
Probably would. I mean, look. Yeah.
All right. I did say we may address the YouTube drama. I've had about a half a beer, so I feel that's the right amount to address the YouTube drama. The LTT versus GN. Please, mommy, daddy, don't fight. That drama. Test ping. Screw you, Skull.
Yeah. I freaking muted it, but I'm still hearing it. It's driving me bonkers. I'm like, what did I do to deserve this?
Bravo. Hashtag mod abuse. That's perfect. Anyway. We're not going to go point for point. I'm not going to go, oh, GN was right here, and Linus was wrong here, and Linus was right here, and GN took it the wrong way, and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to do that.
Actually, I've prepared a list of receipts.
Have you?
Which includes... Yeah, no, it does. Which includes...
I sent Steve a text message in 2017, and he never responded, that little prick.
Yeah.
Rett was in the background of a GN video in 2019, never got recognition. We're still salty about it.
I did by somebody from Craft Computing, but that was about it.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple of craft people went, there's Rett in the background.
Why isn't he looking at his camera?
Ironically enough, in the NZXT booth.
Heck yeah. Yeah, anyway. I've been sending him a bill for using my likeness in that video this whole time and just leaving me on red. So.
Yep. I have some thoughts. Where to begin? Let me say, I'm going to land 92% in the camp of LTT. Not by taking sides, but simply by saying, what are the grievances that either party has? Steve kind of started this with his whole expose. The Problem with Linus Tech Tips was the title of the video. And he went through a series of technical inaccuracies in Linus Media Group videos, basically accused them of gross mismanagement and pushing to publish before checks and balances within the organization could be done. Accused them of no regulatory or QC control in the organization. Accused them of stealing a Billet Labs prototype and auctioning it off for profit. And then also accused them of sexual misconduct in the workplace. Did I sum up the expose well enough? Okay.
I think you also forgot that Steve personally holds Linus responsible for hurting his feelings.
Probably. During that video, Steve went out and explicitly said we did not reach out to comment from Linus Tech Tips because we did not want to be led astray or have the story twisted or have them submit documentation which would be, devastating to my case, to quote Liar Liar. Objection, why? Because it's devastating to my case. And as it turns out, the accusations of pushing to production in sake of quality, yeah, maybe. But the things that Steve pointed out, were they technically wrong? Yes. Is that the best kind of wrong? No, because the things that he pointed out were like asterisk corrected data on a GTX 1080 benchmark when they're reviewing an RTX 3080, in which the table was wrong, the graphic was wrong, but the data that they based their conclusion on was correct, which means it's inconsequential to the subject matter of the video. So you're being pedantic. There were a couple things that he's like, we think Linus should have done this better. Well, that's your opinion, that you think he should have made a video about this or think he should have handled this better. But that's your opinion and not an objective fact when you present it like an objective fact. In the accusation of stealing the Billet Labs prototype, as it turns out, Billet Labs may have had may have just been a little salty over the situation and maybe only provided GN with things that painted LTT in a very negative light. And by the time GN had published this, the situation was, number one, already resolved, both with the buyer at the LTX auction as well as Billet Labs and everyone else involved. And was a miscommunication at its very worst. When you're talking about a company the size of LTT, you have one person who's in charge of inventory, you have one person who's in charge of vendor relations, you have 3 or 4 other people who are in charge of LTX and the convention. You have Linus himself as the CEO, you've got this, you've got that. I don't know if you've ever worked for a company with more than like 5 people. Maybe not everyone knows every little email that gets sent in and out all of the freaking time. And this wasn't an issue of theft. This was a miscommunication with a vendor who changed the narrative and who changed the agreement after the fact. So basically, there's no substantiation or no substantiating evidence that says LTT stole anything, and they still made it right before the expose went live and have receipts for it. As for the sexual misconduct allegations, LTT hired an independent investigator and likely a lawyer to go over the whole thing, which they found no credible evidence of any of this happening whatsoever. And I know there's going to be people who say, well, they hired them just to say that publicly. When you are the size of an LTT or a Linus Media Group or any company of any substantial size, you don't hire internal investigations for the PR. You hire them to eliminate bad people from your organization because you don't want that kind of liability. You don't want a lawsuit. You don't want a culture where that's okay. You hire an investigator to tell you exactly what you found. And LMG made good on their promise and made those results public. For some people, that'll never be enough. But again, when you only report one side of the story, makes it look a lot worse than it actually is, especially when you deliver it like, gosh, I hate to do this, but I hate LMG. And I can't believe I have to be bothered to drag them into the coals, but I'm freaking going to. When you deliver it with the conviction and tell your audience what they're supposed to believe from your conclusions, and then LMG doesn't want to get into the mud with you, and so they don't respond? Yeah, whatever. And Linus pretty much stayed silent on it. And then GN had to drag Linus into the honey thing and basically say, we disagree with the way Linus handled the honey situation.
Yeah.
The honey situation, for those who aren't aware, honey was a plugin that basically every influencer touted. We were asked to and politely declined, I would like to mention. Same with Entitle, or is that, what's the title company? Yeah.
Damn, what was that people called? The ones that'll give you a
1 square foot of land in Scotland and call you a lord.
And you can have a title,
Yeah.
God, was it Established Titles?
Established Titles, I think was the name of that. Yeah. They offered us $5,000.
Yeah.
And I went, that feels sketchy.
Yeah.
Honey offered us money, and I went, I don't want to lose affiliate sales in Perpetua. That sounds like a bad deal. But Linus did have a sponsorship from Honey. They recommended Honey because it saved the consumer money. Now, the trade-off was you're probably going to lose some affiliate sales, but Honey paid you well enough where it would offset it, or at least it would front-load you enough to deal with the offset if people continued using the plugin. And when they found out that basically anyone using Honey was losing affiliate links, when Honey was stealing 100% of affiliate sales, LMG did publicly make a statement on their forums and said, we are dropping Honey as a sponsor because they're stealing affiliate links. We feel it's a bad deal for us. We feel it's a bad deal for creators. That was the situation at the time. However, the Honey narrative has changed. The story has changed. The situation has changed. Shockingly enough, it's different from 3 years ago when Linus dropped Honey as a sponsor. Now, it's not just Honey is stealing money from affiliate sales, stealing from creators. They're also not giving consumers the best deal, sometimes hiding deals explicitly, sometimes having backdoor deals with companies to only offer 5% when there's a 30% coupon out there. So it's also ripping off consumers. Now it's a bigger deal. Should LMG, who had Honey as a sponsor 3 years ago, be required to make a video to protect the consumer good? No, that's ridiculous. Someone already made the video. A couple someone's already made the video. That was Steve's whole point, was to make the video. Steve's the one who apparently is the consumer advocate.
Ugh. Self-appointed, by the way.
Self-appointed consumer advocate, and we'll get into that. tried for years to say I respect Steve and the work that he does. That I respect his benchmarking acumen, that I respect his technical accuracy, that I respect the things that he does. I have lost all respect for that man as a journalist. Every last shred. Every last bit. And we'll get into it a little bit more. But speaking more of the Honey situation, LMG is free to handle their situation as they see fit. As a former Honey recipient or Honey sponsor receiver. Why didn't Steve go after Marquez Brownlee or Mark Rober or think of a dozen other influencers that are way bigger than LTT? Think of Unbox Therapy. Think all of them had Honey as a sponsor. All of them have dropped Honey as a sponsor. None of them made videos or statements about why they dropped them. Why aren't they in your radar, Steve? Oh, right, because it's personal. I believe Steve putting on the hat of an investigative journalist, specifically the way that he does it and the way he presents his arguments, is not only not good for consumers, for consumer protection the way he's saying it is. I believe it's not good for this industry as a whole. Because of how scorched earth he is with his opinions. Let me give you an example. The NZXT rental PC situation. Is the NZXT rental PC a good program? No. It's a shit deal for consumers. It is a PC that charges as much as the PC is worth for 1 year of use than you could just pay buying the PC outright. But if that were the case, if Steve was just looking for the bad deal, Rent-A-Center is right the...
I was just about to say it. Like, why doesn't he march out, get his cameras? We spent $40,000 of our own money flying drones over the
Rent-A-Center in Spokane, Washington to get the inside scoop on this story.
They have televisions. They have PlayStations. They have couches with cup holders built into them.
Mm-hmm. This PS4 can be yours for just $99 a month for 12 months.
And if you don't pay them, it tanks your credit. And they can repossess their items.
Yep. Rent-A-Center is right there. Now here's the problem. Is NZXT a bad company with horrible customer service and a horrible reputation? No. Do they make products that I would recommend? Yes. They make good products. And for the most part, I've heard nothing but good customer service reports from NZXT, from people who have bought NZXT products and maybe had a problem with them and gotten them solved. Every company will have products go bad. It's how you handle the situations that makes you good. NZXT, from all of my accounts, from all of the people that I have talked to, is generally a good company and has products that I would and have recommended on the channel before. However, because NZXT decided to do a rental PC program, which is probably one small department in the company that spun up to be a segment of their system integrator business, because they also have NZXT Build, in which you could build and purchase your own custom NZXT PC to your specifications. It's an offshoot of their build program. Their build program is fantastic. It's a phenomenal deal to get a reputable PC from a systems integrator with first-party support, delivered direct to your door, custom parts, custom everything else. It's a great deal. Always has been a great deal. I've done a couple ads for NZXT Build on the channel before. But NZXT came out with their rental program, and Steve said, I took that personally. And Steve went scorched earth with NZXT. Because NZXT has this program that has this one thing with their company that he deemed a bad deal for consumers. We will no longer review NZXT products. We will no longer accept NZXT sponsorships. We will no longer recommend NZXT products. We will not deal with NZXT. We will not see them at CES. We will not do this. We will not do that. And anyone in this industry who works with NZXT. And you know what the problem with that is? NZXT still makes good products. NZXT still has good customer service. NZXT still has products that I, as an independent reviewer, would still recommend to you today. If I decided to do a monthly PC build and included an NZXT case and cooler, the brigading that happens because of GN fanboys who have had a fire lit under their asses will come after me and go, I can't believe you would work with such a disingenuous and horrible, dishonest company. I will never watch Craft Computing again. You have no idea how many times I've read that. You have no idea, as a smaller reviewer, as a channel with 358,000 subscribers, with good relationships with the majority of companies out there. You have no idea how absolutely fucking tired I am of walking on eggshells because Steve hung a new noose on a tree.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you said it perfectly earlier. Like, he fancies himself this investigative journalist, but when, they came out with this program, he took it personally. Do you think investigative journalists are injecting, that personal offense into everything that they write? Do you think that they're taking everything personally? I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, he's always had an axe to grind. Anytime you watch one of these, like, quote unquote investigative pieces, it doesn't come across as journalism. It comes across as a hit piece. It comes across as like...
That's exactly what it is. Yeah. I said when it came out, I said on Talking Heads, the week that the problem with LTT came out, that was a hit piece through and through. And here's the deal. The way he delivers it, and I noticed this a little bit this week. I was talking on Discord earlier this week. It was yesterday. With gosh, who was that?
Somebody.
It was somebody. I remembered his name. I'm not going to mention the name. I don't want to call anyone out. But I went right from a Reddit post that said, look, we all know LMG has made their fair share of mistakes, but the way GN covered this really rubbed me the wrong way. You had to qualify your argument. You had to qualify your argument with Linus is no saint to avoid the GN fanboys coming after you for speaking ill of Steve. Mm-hmm. You had to cover your argument when, again, what was the actual implications of Steve's original expose? It was a misrepresentation of a sexual assault allegation. It was a misrepresentation of the situation with Billet Labs. And it was a misrepresentation and influx of opinion on how you think LMG should handle editorial issues. That's it. That's what that whole fucking 100-hour and 20-minute video boiled down to. Is 2 nothing burgers of a story in which you displayed half of the story and intentionally left out the other half. And then a whole bunch of conjecture based on how you would have done that video and how you would have displayed information. That's it.
Yeah.
And me as a reviewer, if I come out and I say, I don't like this, the GN fanboys are down my throat again. And I'm so freaking tired of it. I have a couple of other channels that I don't get along with. I disagree at some fundamental levels with their conclusions. But, and this is kind of the bigger point, I still recommend you watch them. Because I think it's still good information. And I think it's still a valid point, even if I don't agree with it. And the greater point there is every organization, every reviewer, every channel that you watch has the autonomy to make their own decisions. And Steve is not the arbiter of those decisions. I get to review GPUs and CPUs the way I want to review them. And that is my decision as literally the CEO of my company. But I have been told my GPU reviews aren't reviews because I didn't give you a top-to-bottom list and eliminate CPU bottlenecks. But then, oh right, the B580 struggled with lower-end CPUs, which we never would have found out had no one actually tested that. What my channel is not in-depth analysis and holding the industry's feet to the fire and the absolute, you know, I'm not the absolute authority when it comes to what's good, what's not. Do you know what I am and what I started as, and actually kind of what I want to lean back into? I'm literally a guy in my basement drinking beer, sharing my love of PCs and beer. That's all I am. Now, I like to back up those opinions with objective data, and I do. But that doesn't mean I have to do my reviews the exact same way that GN or Hardware Unbox or Linus or Jay or Paul or Bitwit or anyone else does a review. Because a review is an opinion. You watch me because you value my opinion and my introspection on a particular product or how to build a PC or what to pair together or anything else. And we as reviewers all have bias. And if you think you don't have bias, if you think you're just letting the numbers do the talking, you're already wrong. Look no further than putting out hit pieces for companies and organizations you don't like.
Was the NZXT thing before or after the whole...
NZXT actually started because they had a PCI riser card, a vertical mount adapter for one of their cases that had some wiring issues from the factory that in certain circumstances could provide a fire hazard. If you only plugged it in halfway, if you added enough resistance to the circuit, if you manipulated the riser enough, it could, in certain circumstances, pose a fire hazard. This was one of Steve's first investigative journalism things, where he bought like 5 of them and then made one fail and things like that. And then he blacklisted NZXT, and then he also did 3 follow-up videos on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and a Monday. Before NZXT, as a company who has employees that have weekends off, could even respond to the controversy.
Oh, amazing.
Which is also where I started losing respect, because it's like, Steve, you know how
that is a level
work.
Yeah, and that is so intentional.
Yeah,
that you can't say that you had any other intention there.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the fanboys can come out and be like, oh well, you know, it's not his fault. I mean, he's a, you know, small business. He's got to work on the weekends. Mm-hmm. He's got to make it do. Well, okay. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I think when you got to start having like so many excuses for, you know, your boy, you got to start wondering what you're doing.
Right.
Just like the same thing. Like, you got to qualify every little thing, every little criticism you say by, well, Linus this, but I didn't like the way this happened. It's like, just say that sucked, that was shitty.
Yeah.
Of GN to do.
Yeah. And like I said, between this whole argument, I said I'm 92% LMG in this, as far as they're going to come out looking just fine.
Because they're just behaving like grown-ups.
Right.
Like it's so funny. This whole big video
But
came
I had
out,
to
and then
qualify
Linus.
it's only 92%. I did it
Yeah,
myself and then argued against it.
I mean,
I gave
yeah.
Linus 8% of the blame arbitrarily so you would listen to me for 20 minutes.
It's just ridiculous, and it doesn't even get into like the really like shitty receipt like blog post that he just made the other day, where it's just like it made him look even stupider and even more childish. It's like, look, here's these text messages that I've been sitting on for 3 years, and it's like, whoa,
Here's this
bro,
one thing
like,
that Anthony deleted a CPU one day, and they showed it this way on camera, but apparently they did it a different way off camera. But how am I supposed to trust those results, bro? Because they did it differently off camera and published those results. This wasn't a how to delid your CPU. This was the results of delidding your CPU. That's what the point of the video was. If you want to know how to delid a CPU, Der Bauer has 30 videos on that. Go watch one of his. That's actually a tutorial on how to do it. I've delidded a CPU on the channel before. Don't watch my video on how to do it. By the way, that CPU survived and still works today. But that was the first time I've ever delidded a CPU. And I delidded it on video. And then I water cooled it and did everything else I could to it. That was the 7820X. I had a 7th gen Intel X99 that I was trying to cool because, God, those things ran at the surface of the sun as far as temperature goes. And I got like 6 degrees off by delidding it and applying new thermal paste. I didn't want to go liquid metal because I didn't want to deal with the maintenance of liquid metal.
yeah.
But the way Steve is handling issues over the last couple of years, in the guise of consumer advocacy, is not only bad for the consumer, it's bad for the industry as a whole, because it sows distrust with other people's opinions, like mine, like Linus, like Jay, like Paul, like Bitwit, like all the other people in this industry that I deeply, deeply respect. It sows distrust if they use an NZXT product on their videos. He said NZXT was an evil, dishonest company and you should never work with them again. And why? Costco's had things that are bad deals. Costco can do no wrong because they got the $1.50 hot dogs, right? You know what Costco did do, though? They took away the $1.50 sausage dogs, and that was the real magic. That was the real winner when it comes to the $1.50 meal. I'm still bitter about sausage dogs being pulled off the $1.50 menu. Costco's not so rosy, are they? If they can pull a move like that.
I mean, hey, Bayer used to make poison gas, and now they make the world's #1 consumed aspirin.
Right.
How many people have they saved from heart attacks with their baby aspirins?
Is it a plus minus number over the?
Have they done I don't know if we want to
offset the bad yet?
I don't know if we want to get into that math.
But look, GN built his and Steve, I'm sure you're going to watch this because you work 100 hours a week, right?
I hope you watch this, Steve, and you can go back and find me in your CES 2019 video coverage.
I've got a 5090.
And pay your invoice.
I have a 5090 provided by NVIDIA. I am reviewing this card currently. The review embargo for this card ends in 11 hours. 10 hours and 39 minutes from now. I have not shot the video for it yet. I'm about 3/4 of the way through writing my review. Am I going to work through the night to do it? No. I have a family. I have 3 children. I have a wife. I treat this job like a job. I work about 50 hours a week. I got the card on Friday afternoon. Friday at actually about 10:45. I picked up the card. Friday at 10:45 in the morning. I was on my way to have lunch with a friend of mine. was actually on my way to have lunch with Yocto and give him Green's PC. He then drove down to California.
Nice.
But I got home. I finished some other work that I was doing, and I started my 5090 review 8 a.m. Saturday morning. 8 a.m. Saturday morning, I had 6 hours worth of troubleshooting that I had to do because I couldn't get my 5090 to boot reliably because of the test bench that I was using. I've got a 9800X3D. I've got an Asus Crosshair X870E motherboard. I've got some G.Skill Trident 6000 megahertz, 6000 megatransfers, DDR5. The card would post. The card would get into Windows. But whenever I installed the driver, sometimes it would stay on the desktop. But if I got into a benchmark, I would get like 3 frames per second, and then it would immediately crash. Sometimes it would do way more than that. It would do the actual expected frames per second in that particular benchmark, and it would run for like 20 seconds, and then it would crash. And so I spent about 4 hours doing different Windows installs and everything else. Finally, about noon, reached out to some contacts at NVIDIA, and I said, I'm having some serious problems. I have tried multiple installs of Windows, 23H2, 24H1, 24H2. I have tried re-downloading your press driver just in case it's that. I have tried, reseating. I've tried different slots. This card will not run when the drivers are installed. It displays video when they're not, but even after it crashes, sometimes I will not get video on post. I think I have a bad card. And so I went through a couple extra troubleshooting steps, power supply, maybe you're using the wrong cable, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Went through some troubleshooting steps with some people over at NVIDIA. Finally determined I probably had a bad card. We'll get you a new card out immediately. Well, it's about 1 in the afternoon, 2 in the afternoon or so. I took the card and I went, you know what? I have one other PC in here that has the 600 watt 12 volt high power plug. Let me go ahead and use that. So I went and plugged it into my Threadripper box, and it fired right up. I got to the desktop. I installed the press driver. The press driver installed just fine. I got into benchmarks. The benchmarks ran just fine. My UPS screamed, but my benchmarks ran just fine. And I completed multiple benchmark runs. So the card works. So I had to come over back to this PC and go, what am I missing about this PC? What's different about this PC? And I went, I wonder if there's a BIOS update. I wonder if the board BIOS is out of date. Because this was the press kit for the 9800X3D. That is now my test bench, is the press review kit for the 9800X3D that AMD sent over. So I checked Asus's website for a BIOS update. There was a BIOS update issued on January 13th. I installed that BIOS update. Card runs fine. So I spent 6 or 7 hours troubleshooting a potential failed 5090 that turned out to be a BIOS issue on a motherboard. And the BIOS was only like 2 months old. Like, it wasn't that old. But apparently the version that I had, there was a bug in the BIOS. And so I actually alerted NVIDIA to this. I said, hey, never mind shipping out a card. I think I got it solved. It's running just fine now. I ran like multiple tests on it and said everything's fine. But this was the press kit. If anyone else reports this, make sure that if they're using this platform, they upgrade to the latest BIOS. And NVIDIA put it in their notes that apparently this board with this version of BIOS doesn't like the 5090, won't post with it.
I can't believe how unethical that is of NVIDIA to have allowed happen.
Right.
And
I should have made my expose right there. Asus and NVIDIA taking advantage of consumers, right?
Can't believe how unethical that is. Just unacceptable.
I got myself familiar with the card, with the drivers. I ran a bunch more benchmarks. I started getting just some general impressions of the card. Running through various games and figuring out test parameters that I wanted to take advantage of, Cyberpunk and Indiana Jones and things like that. What worked, what didn't, what was I impressed with, what was I a little let down with, like just taking my general notes, because you have to run a product before you get familiar with it, especially a new top-end product. So I just played some games and took notes. About 6 o'clock, I signed off for the day, went and had dinner. Watched a movie with my kids. Tucked them into bed. Had a beer. Went to bed. You know what I did Sunday? Fuck all. I went out to lunch. I worked around the house a little bit. But Jeff, you've got a deadline. It's Thursday at 6 a.m. Yeah, and if I can't get the video done in the 3 days that I have leading up to it, then it's probably not going to get done. So I worked Monday morning. I spent 12 hours on Monday. I spent 12 hours on Tuesday. I finished all my benchmarking last night at like 9 o'clock p.m. And that's with taking a couple hour breaks here and there. Got done with all of my benchmarking. I've got all my data points. And I went, tomorrow, I've got other things that I need to attend to. I've got things with Axe Effect that I need to attend to. I've got emails that I need to send. I've got, people that I need to make contact with to run the business. I've got this, I've got that. I need to take one of my daughters over to a medical facility to do something. I'll get back like at 1:30. So at 1:30, I finally sat back down at my desk. I got the podcast all written out and got the podcast posted and got the notes and read through all the articles and everything else. Sat down maybe for like an hour and went through all my benchmarks and started making down, further notes for everything. And now I'm doing this.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not going to come out,
be late.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like maybe you should have hired a drone operator.
Certainly would have helped.
You fool.
Certainly would have helped.
You fool. Yeah, I mean, you have nobody to blame.
Lawyer.
Yeah. Brought him on camera. Oh, God.
Yeah. Cosworth sends over $5. Forget the LTT GM drama. I want to see more Yocto Craft computing drama. If you're talking Yocto making me drink more pickle beer, it depends on what graphics card follows that.
Pickles.
I will say there are two people on this planet who have gotten me to drink pickle beer. One of them is Yocto, and one of them is Hops and Brews in a video that's, I think, coming out later this week, or maybe early next week. I know he was editing it. But I was the arbiter of a blind taste test video over on Hops and Brews channel a couple of months ago, and that video is finally going to come to life. Where who's the pickle beer people? Maiden something?
I don't know.
Martin House Brewing. There we go. Martin House.
I know Coin Toss has a really good pickle beer.
Yeah. Martin House Brewing does a number of pickle beers, and in fact, they do a number of flavored pickle beers where they'll do like mustard and
God, that sounds good.
They did like a berry V8 inspired one. They did one with banana. They did one with. I'm not making this up, by the way. Those are actual flavors.
Sounds delicious.
So I got to choose 4 pickle beers and pour them blindly for John and Steve and what's his name? The other guy. Here's a pickle beer. Guess what else is in it?
That's fun.
And there was one beer out of all of them that it's like I crack it open and I'm like, it's pickle. Ew. There was one.
It touched me.
There was one beer that I cracked open and went. I wanted to vomit. It was that bad. And it's the one beer that Steve went, I'm going to take this one with me now that I'm done. And then he took the rest of the can and drank it while we were doing the finale.
Nice.
But yeah, that video is coming out soon. And I didn't even get a graphics card for that. In fact, John's getting a graphics card from me for that. So, with the GN stuff, Does Steve even know who I am? Probably. I've seen him a couple times at conventions. I've spotted him at CES. I've been in the same room with him multiple times. Times in which he probably should have known who I was. Now, I'm not a big YouTuber, but I'm a YouTuber. Instead, he sat in the corner and stewed because he was 15 minutes late to a meeting and the company didn't want to drop their meeting with me to go deal with him. So yeah, maybe my opinion's a little bit personal on how he operates as well. I have my biases, as does everyone. But the way Steve is doing consumer advocacy and investigative journalism, as Linus said, is straight up unethical, not following journalistic standards, and I'm going to go a step further and say bad for the industry as a whole.
And he doesn't even follow his own made-up like standards. Like,
I didn't even mention his made-up standards video, which he pulled after a couple hours, which I have an offline copy of if anyone ever wants to watch it.
Yeah. I guess I forgot that was pulled.
I was in an airport when that dropped. And I wanted to watch it on the plane. And so I downloaded a copy of it. And by the time I got off the plane, it didn't exist anymore. But I watched it on the plane. And
classic.
You want to talk some horse shit? Go watch that video if you haven't seen it.
He doesn't even follow anything and that he put in there. Yeah. It's like, okay.
And it's all arbitrary and made specifically so he can do what he did to LTT. That's the whole purpose of the video.
Yeah.
Is why did we seek comment from NZXT and Newegg, but didn't seek a comment from LTT? Plus, because of these 7 reasons.
Plus, there's some lines in that big blog that he just dropped the other day too, where it's just like,
I don't even want to get into that.
He literally is describing. There's one line in there. I'm just like, oh, your feelings are hurt. Your feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
Like, that's all this is.
Yeah.
You're describing professionalism and blah 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 blah, but like, your personal feelings are hurt because like Linus. I don't even know. You can go read it for yourselves, guys.
Yeah. So,
you know, we actually made it into a second Gamers Nexus video.
Oh, when he was scrolling through thumbnails, right?
EK, he was going through EK on somebody's Facebook page,
right,
and there we were,
there
PDX land, baby. Oh.
Yep. Wherever you fall on the he's right, she's right, you know, finger pointing, whatever. I always say view media critically. Be skeptical. And not to get political, but especially today, please be skeptical, my God. You should always be skeptical of media you consume, because every piece of media you consume has an inherent bias. Whether those biases are explicit or implicit or hidden or obfuscated or whatever the case may be, every piece of media you watch has a bias. Even the BBC, even PBS, even Al Jazeera, even you know, NPR. There's a bias somewhere. Whether you agree with that bias, that's another question entirely. But we're all human, and we all write with emotion more than we write with technical acumen. Every piece of media has bias. Which is why the right thing for me to say in every review is don't take my word for it, go watch other reviews. I will continue to say that. I think Steve still does a good job at hardware reviews. But I can't respect his journalistic acumen at this point. And it's really hard for me to take what he says in his conclusions for hardware reviews seriously when I know there's bias behind it. When I know there's insightful, hateful, personal bias potentially towards specific companies behind it. So take that for what it's worth. NetGuy sends over $10. Thank you so much, NetGuy. The RX 580 8GB was my go-to budget GPU. No driver updates with 5000 series coming. What's the best $100 to $150 budget GPU in the used market now? The 5700 XT you can get on AliExpress for like $120. 5700 XT is still a pretty potent graphics card. Beyond that, it's kind of hard to say.
Mod Storm. Mod Storm.
Yeah. Hey, Cosworth hit it. 5700 XT. Yeah. 5700 XT is probably what I would say, but the problem is it's only 20 or 30% better than the 580 8GB. On the used market, you can get something like a 3060. You can get something like, hopefully very soon, we're going to see a significant number of cards plummet. But we're going to have to wait for the RTX 5070 to hit the market and obliterate the used market as it exists today. Because if the 5070 is actually as fast as the 3090, and the 3090 was already selling for $600, and the 5070 is now $550, and I have it on good authority that AIB cards will be coming out at retail at $550. That is going to push every graphics card down significantly, maybe up to half of the current day pricing. So a 2080 Ti for $175, screw you, $85. Because that's what it's worth in the current scale. I can't imagine spending more on a 2080 Ti than I would on a 4060. And a 4060 is about to be obliterated by some incoming cards. Already was obliterated by a $250 B580. The B570 didn't test nearly as well. But I can't imagine spending more than $170 on an RTX 4060 moving forward, and I'll be damned if I'm going to spend more than an RTX 4060 on a 2080 Ti. A 3060 might be $130 from now on. 3060 Ti, maybe $150. But the used market's a fickle thing, and it really depends on what you find when you find it. It's going to be interesting with all the AliExpress vendors, what those cards end up being, and not to be political, but what the tariffs end up being if you import one. Because that's going to suck.
Ban them. You brought up tariffs.
I did. Well, I also paid $807 in tariffs today, so maybe it's on my mind. We do have a couple more stories to get to, but I've also got another beer to get to. This is a Freem barrel-aged hazelnut porter, clocking in at 9.7%. I don't see very many barrel-aged porters.
Mm.
Hazelnut.
Sounds delish. I drank both my beers.
Oh.
Ooh, Freem. Justin says, not to be political, but you're kind of being political.
Maybe I have biases that are implicit or explicit.
I've been a good boy today. I haven't said anything political today at all.
Allison says, so much doubt that used GPUs will crash that hard. So many people have a lot of fixation on the price they paid. Yes, they do, but the market will also only bear what it will bear. And not to be political, but I haven't seen the cost of eggs go down yet. Maybe people will be a little bit more frugal with the particular graphics card that they're looking to buy on the used market. Maybe they won't be willing to spend $220 for a $250 card that someone bought new a year ago. Especially when a card at $550 is supposed to tank the value of the 3090. And if the 3090 is supposed to be less valuable than a 5070, the 3090 should drop to maybe, I don't know, $450, $400, somewhere right in there. It is 5 years old at this point. I have one on the test bench right here next to me. So where would you price every other card below a 4090? We'll even give it the benefit of, or above a 3090, and we'll even give the 3090 the benefit of the doubt at $450. Let's say $450 for a 5-year-old 3090. What's a 3080? $375. What's a 3070? $250. Well, what's a 3060? $175? $150? As the higher end cards come crashing down, even if there's not a new competitor yet, it still makes you question the entirety of the rest of the used market, if you think about it critically. Some people are going to vastly overpay for used graphics cards, and that's just sad. Maybe I'll do a video on that after the 5070 launches. What should you pay for used GPUs? What's the market like right now, and what would I actually pay based on performance? What's the actual performance chart of the used landscape? Maybe that's a video. 3090 came out September 24th of 2020. 4.5 years. Yeah, a bit of rounding, but not that far off. 4.5 years as of March, when the 5070 will be on the market. I don't know if the 3070 is worth nearly that. I don't either, especially because it's only 8 gigs. Now, I have thoughts on the 8 gigabyte limit because I was doing a whole bunch of testing, and Doom Eternal at 4K Ultra ray tracing with DLSS use 7.6 gigabytes, and that's one that people always love to bring up. Red Dead Redemption used, I think 7.6 at 1440p, and every setting maxed. Hell, Cyberpunk with path tracing used like 9 gigs. Are you doing path tracing with your 3070? Sad that the 3090 is that old. I got it used, but it's the EVGA Kingpin, and I'll feel bad to retire it eventually. God, that's a good card. Oh, that's a really good card. I'd be sad about that one, too. I have a 3090 Founders, and I'm going to be sad when I have to retire that card, because I think it's one of the most beautiful cards NVIDIA's ever made. Now, I love that they've kind of kept with that same aesthetic as the years have gone on with the 4000 and 5000 series. What, no 8K gaming tests? I did run superposition at 8K. Gosh. I can't even make the statement that I want to make, and that really sucks.
Careful.
I can't.
Careful.
I can't because that would give away a score. I wanted
You're
to
only
say
10% beer in, Jeff. Don't blow it.
Right. It was really fun casually setting world records in my office this week. I can say that much. Just another one. Another one. That was fun. Yeah. Prices will eventually adapt to what the market will bear, but it will take time. Yeah, it's not going to happen March 1st. But I'd expect by April, prices have eventually normalized. Like, eBay auctions have to fail and then be reposted for the used market to correct itself. Like, there has to be like a 30-day moratorium. That always happens. So, yeah. Cosworth wants to know, Rhett, are you wearing the Bane Dark Knight coat?
No.
Oh, wait.
Oh, dude, what's that? What was it? What's the? Oh, Zeus. I'm wearing Zeus's girlfriend's coat.
Yes. We were at PDX LAN a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And Rhett came in wearing this jacket. And it's a nice jacket.
Oh yeah, man. I love this jacket. I get compliments on it all the time.
Like the wool flecked inside, the corduroy outside. Like it's a nice jacket. We met up with with another Discord member named Zeus. And Zeus's girlfriend walks in wearing that jacket. And all weekend, like, it's a nice jacket, but we'd also been making fun of him that, Brett, that's a little femme. Like, it's...
Oh, yeah. Like it's a bad thing.
Like it's a bad thing. Right. Just kind of poking fun at a friend, you know, like that mutual ribbing, like, oh, this jacket, I'm gonna keep wearing this jacket as long as you're wearing that hat, like that kind of ribbing. But then Zeus's girlfriend walks in wearing that jacket, the same color, the same cut, the same manufacturer, everything was like.
I think we even bought it at the same store and everything, like.
Yeah.
And I can't remember exactly. Like I remember, like kind of looked at. I can't remember who said something first. I feel like. It's probably because I'm so guilty of this. I probably was like, "Nice jacket."
Right.
Like I do that if I see somebody wearing the same thing. It happens to me. Like I have this like specific watch. It's like a Sunto Core watch, and when I see people wearing it, it's like a club, and I always point. I'm like, "Yo, nice watch," and they're like, "What? Why would he say that?" Oh, he's got the same one, of course. Like, you know, if I see somebody with the same shoes, I'm like, "Nice shoes." I'm like, "Huh? What? Oh, of course, this guy has the same shoes." So it might have been that, but you know what? In all honesty, it's possible that Zeus or Zeus's girlfriend said something first. But
yeah, I can't remember exactly how it went down. All I remember is I died laughing.
I've seen, other than that, I've seen two other people wearing this same jacket, the same color, and they were both women. So of the four people I know that have this jacket, three of them are women. So, which whatever, man. I've been saying it for a long time. I am jealous of female fashion.
Absolutely. I cannot tell you the number of times I've walked through a Goodwill and I'm like, that is a dope shirt. Oh, it's a woman's medium.
Oh, yeah. I told you about how I like threw off my Instagram algorithm by I was like, oh, this is a dope sweater, and I bought it without looking, and it was a woman's sweater, and from then on, all of my Instagram ads were for women's clothes. I'm like, well, darn it, and I still wear that sweater to this day. The cut isn't quite right, but it's all right.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
What are you
I've gone like, that's a dope jacket. I would totally rock that. Yeah. Jeff, you're on the women's rack. Yeah. I bought a couple things from there.
Telling you, man.
That's
all men get to do. We get to accessorize, and that's it.
That
so
neon graffiti shirt that I wore for the ad, I bought that from the women's section.
Oh, heck yeah.
I wore for the pork bun ad with the afro. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like, we need characters for this ad. Like, we need to be like our past selves. And Rhett's like, well, we can go to like Spirit Halloween or something like that. I'm like, Goodwill's right down the street, man. Let's just go to Goodwill and we'll buy whatever they had. And they had a mullet wig, they had an afro wig, and they had 2 shirts that were absolutely perfect.
Perfect. Yeah.
We spent 5 minutes and got everything we needed.
Yeah, that was great.
Alice sends over $5. Thank you so much, Alice. Think Budget PC Builds has already reported a fake RTX 5070 on AliExpress. Definitely not surprised. Veronica says, I started saying my shirts are fitted versus non-fitted because saying women's and unisex wasn't selling. I like that. And by the way, I mention this every time, but Veronica has the best shirts in a merch store ever. I'm not wearing one of yours tonight, but your trackball person shirt is my absolute favorite. VKC.sh. Go buy some merch from Veronica. And then go to craftcomputing.store and buy some merch from me. Support both channels. Cosworth sends over $2. Oh, we have seen that Rett special. We have seen Rhett's special sweaters.
Yeah. Exactly. If you know, you know.
Shaziger says, I'm not ashamed to say I bought a pair of women's leather gloves before. I've bought a pair of women's leather gloves because they're the gloves that fit me and they worked fantastic. And I needed a pair of rubber gloves leather gloves. My 350Z got really cold in the winter, and I had a chromoly shift ball on it. And so for a while I had driving gloves in my car, and I believe they were women's leather gloves. Eventually I got I took one of the leather bags that came with one of my lenses, and I kept it in the center console of my 350Z, because that chromoly shift ball, it weighed like a pound or a pound and 4 ounces or something like that for a chrome ball that was about this big that screwed on as the shift knob. The problem is, I don't know if you've ever studied physics or specific heat or the thermal mass of specific items. But that shift ball, in the winter, it would get down to 20 degrees.
Cold.
And you don't want to touch it. And then in the summer, it would get 110 degrees plus inside your car, and the magnifying effect of that. I would literally burn my hand touching it. And so eventually I had like a lens leather bag that I kept in the center console so I could put it over that and drive my car. Veronica sends over $10. Thanks as always for the shout outs. Always helps to sell a few shirts. You're more than welcome. Every time you come out with a new one, I'm like, I'm really jealous I didn't think of that idea first, because it's brilliant. I love the bouncing trackball. It's fantastic. And as a trackball person myself, you know, we didn't get to many of the other stories. Kind of liked what we got to, though. Like, I said no politics, and then we got into YouTube drama, but
it doesn't count. There was no politicians named.
We didn't talk about names, and
didn't talk about the horrors of reality. YouTube drama is like a nice reprieve. In all honesty, like,
as I said, I'm so tired of walking around eggshells because Steve deems something below him.
Then don't. I mean, he's a glorified, like, no disrespect. I use Reddit all the time. He's like a glorified Redditor with a YouTube channel. Like, that's all he is. Like, whatever. What's he gonna do?
Yeah.
You gonna make an expose about craft computing now?
Be my guest.
I'll say the worst thing. He can make an expose. Yeah, exactly. Like, oh no, Jeff is constrained.
If he makes an expose, it's punching down and he's being a dick, and that's the advantage that I have right now.
Exactly. That's what makes me laugh. Like, oh, he's gonna come after me, and he's like, oh, well, Rett is awesome over on the craft computing channel. I'm like, okay.
I said when the original LTT Expo came out, when I called out all the little nitpicks that he had. Like, he had the wrong GTX 1080 frame rate number in his chart when they were doing like a 3080 review, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. But do I, as a reviewer, need to worry that if my editorial standards aren't up to that of Gamers Nexus, that I'm going to be the subject of a hit piece one of these days? Like, you have to understand, number one, I am the editor of my own channel, of my own content, and I deem what is acceptable and what is not acceptable for my own content. And you know what I think is acceptable? I'm a dude in my basement drinking beer telling you about PC parts. That's who I am. That's how I review parts. I review things based on my own experience and expertise, and I give consumer advice therein. Some of it's more valuable than others. Some of it may apply to you better than it does for others. But all I can do is give you my opinion. I am not trying to be wholly objective. I tell you from the beginning of my reviews, I have an objective in mind. I have a scenario or a use case in mind. I've always said with a product review, I start with who is this product marketed to, who would buy it, and does it work for that? That's where I start, and conclude all of my reviews from the perspective of, is who is this product for? I review a 5090 differently than I will review a 5070 because they are two different market segments for two different buyers. And that's okay, because I'm talking to the people who are actually in the market for these products. When I review handhelds, I tell you what the ergonomics are like based on the shape of my hands. I tell you my height.
Why are you leading astray people who don't have similar shaped hand as you?
Maybe they should get better hands.
You know what? We're hiring
Devil's hands are idle playthings anyway. But I'm also not going to hide behind I don't want to get called out by GN, because at this point, screw it. But I feel what he's doing is bad for the industry. It's a bad look for everyone involved. It's disingenuous to the companies. It's disingenuous to certainly Linus Media Group, but everyone else in this industry. Because Steve wouldn't have made that mistake, because Steve wouldn't have included that particular bar graph or that chart in his review, we can't either. Or if we make a mistake, we have to issue a full retraction, an editorial apology, a 90-minute essay on why we won't do that again.
Yeah, except he wouldn't even be bothered to do that. Like, doesn't he just usually just have a link to his website where he's got corrections to be made and stuff? That's one of the things that always shocks me, is that other channels, if there's corrections to be made, they'll put it on the screen usually. I don't know. I guess does Gamers Nexus? I've seen them do that a couple times, I guess. But
last week I was building the server build for Green, and when I was introducing the parts, I said I have been chomping at the bit to review this 4U case from Sliger. It's a 3U case. I knew it was a 3U case. I ordered it because it was a 3U case. I wanted to see this 3U case from Sliger. I said 4U because every server case is 4U, and it was a slip of the tongue. And I have a blooper somewhere in my camera that says, did I just say 4U? I'm not going to say it again. We'll put an asterisk over it. Because it made no difference to the conclusion or the editorial or the context of that video.
Yeah.
And I said it correctly later in the video anyway. So you know what I did? I put a giant asterisk on the screen and put 3U.
You know what? And in all honesty, I mean...
And that's how I handle my mistakes. And that's how I'm going to handle my mistakes. Because it's my channel and I get to say what I do on my channel.
Plus, Jeff, to be fair, I don't think that you said 4U. I just think it was a simple misunderstood gesture that you made.
Totally. Totally. Well, I do have autism, so there's that.
Yeah, so clearly, can we just stop being so, judgmental about this passionate slip of the tongue that you made?
Do I turn around and say 3U again? Is that what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, well, yeah, you should have said it.
I should
Exactly.
say
Back
I
to
should
back.
say 3U, or no, I should have said 4U this way and then 4U that way, and screw you. I said 3U, but what I meant was 3U, and it came from a place of compassion and love, not a hate
Yeah.
symbol that is universally
because
recognized and
exactly, because you've been to the Intel campus, so you understand what it's like. We can talk about that one off the air. That's a deep cut. I can't.
Is this like
I can't
a NASA
explain
reference?
That. I can't explain that reference without getting into politics. I don't know where I'm going, but oh god. Oh.
It's not political. It's not political. It's not political. Can we get bloopers at the end of your videos? No, you get beer reviews at the end of my videos. And I think that's way better.
I used to put some bloopers in there when they were really good.
Yeah.
It was only few and far between, though.
I still do occasionally. But like I said, like, I always strive to be better and more accurate. But part of me kind of wants to lean back into, I'm just a dude in my basement. That's who I am. It's who I've always been. Do you know what I did in the 3 years, 10 years leading up to the launch of the channel? I got on eBay and I bought weird shit. And I put it together and I made it work. And sometimes I sold it and sometimes I used it. 2006, I bought a dual Xeon system from a former Intel engineer on Craigslist and ran that as my workstation for a couple years. It was an engineering sample of the first dual-core Intel Xeon processor. So it was dual-core, 4-threaded, 2 CPUs, so a total of 4 cores, 8 threads, way before it was cool. This was 2006. And that was back when you had a shared Northbridge, so your memory controller was on a Northbridge chip, and your CPUs went to the Northbridge and then to the memory. So each independent CPU socket shared the memory pool with the other CPU socket, so they ran perfectly on the same bus. That's the kind of stuff I was doing before I started the channel. And I started the channel so I could talk about that and share the things that I'm passionate about. Yeah, Jeff throwing his heart out to everyone.
Careful.
That's why I started the channel. That's why I love doing what I do. Craft extra for the bloopers? Maybe. Maybe eventually. My bloopers aren't that good anymore. It's mostly me just going, hell, Jeff, would you say the fucking line right? Like, that's what most of the bloopers are, as Rett can attest to.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes my bloopers are good, but you'd have to wait a year to get a supercut. Like, it's, yeah. But it's literally, I wanted to share the things that I'm passionate about. That includes PCs, that includes servers, that includes networking and infrastructure and storage and all kinds of stuff. That includes beer and cocktails. And it's all under one roof. And you know who gets to say what goes under my roof? Me. And I'm tired of being held to a standard that I didn't set myself. So I'm not gonna anymore.
Boom.
And Steve, maybe you shouldn't either. Maybe you should do what you're good at. And stop trying to be the arbiter of everything that goes on here.
Go back to having fun,
Back
Steve.
to having fun. Stop working 100 hours a week. And go back to enjoying what you do. I know the stresses of this industry. I know the stresses of this business. I know the stresses of having multiple employees underneath you. Believe it or not, I've had more employees underneath me than you've had underneath you. I understand it. But go back to enjoying it. And strive to make better content that your people actually enjoy. Instead of just literally hate binging. Because I'm tired of it. And we're going to get enough of that over the next 4 years anyway. So, let's not let it encroach in this industry.
4 years was an oddly specific non-political number. Weird.
I didn't say 3 years and 62 days, did I? I was rounding up.
Awesome. Well, if you want the real political talk, join the after party. No.
Jeff might want to use a better word than employees under me. Why? I was the manager and the supervisor. I had higher fire ability. They were literally employees that I managed. They were employees under my management. That is literally the definition of employees beneath me. Employees underneath me. How else would you phrase that? Just...
Yeah, grow up, Andy.
Oh God, here comes the expose. I have Mac, Linux, and Windows computers. I can touch a Mac, a Linux, and a Windows desktop without moving. There's a Mac. Here's a Windows. Hold on, is the Linux within reach? No, the Linux isn't in reach. I don't have a Linux in reach. Damn it! I'm so close. It's on the other table. But they're all in this room. Gyurdo says, I'm an employee under my manager. See? Under management is the term. There is a vertical structure to companies, and under typically means under the management of. Employees beneath me, which would mean employees that I managed. Anyway, this has been fun. We didn't get to everything, but I think we got to the important things.
I think so too. The other stories, they're good. You can go to 404media.co to read up on them. But
hashtag not sponsored. Subscribe to 404 Media.
Yeah. You can literally just get a free account and read all those stories. Pretty nice.
Yeah.
Most of their stories, anyway. I don't know. Maybe there's some paid ones. I haven't run into anything problems yet. But yeah.
What?
What?
Nothing.
Oh.
Jeff thinks all his employees are beneath him. Well, they are. I can reach 3 computer OSs as well. Linux, Amiga, and Commodore. Way to up the game, Veronica. Gosh. Anyway, this has been fun. And it wasn't political. We did touch on a bunch of drama. But I'm glad someone finally freaking said it.
If you weren't, I would.
Yep. Anyway, this has been episode 366 of Talking Heads, the podcast we do every week because I said we do a podcast every week. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news right here on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what beer you're drinking, what soda you're drinking, or what your favorite dinner is. I want to know.
Yum.
I want to know.
Yum.
What's your comfort food? That's a good. What's your comfort food? Yeah.
General So's, baby.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know what I'm about.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I want General So's.
Be good dinner.
This is your fault. The problem is I'm 20 minutes equidistant from the two sources of it.
That's true.
And DoorDash sucks 20 minutes away. Join us every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Subscribe to the channel.
Yeah. Follow me over at Bluesky. I'm at redisawesome.com.
Redisawesome.com. I am at craftcomputing.bluesky.social. Or you can also follow at openviro.com for updates on the upcoming Project Axe Effect.
Woohoo!
Yes. What else is there? Oh, Patreon. If you like the content you see, want to help support me in what I do, help keep the lights on around here, join the Patreon. Minimum donation of $1 a month, and you get exclusive access to my Discord server. Not only can chat with the other hosts from Talking Heads, as well as myself, but the awesome community that hangs out over there. Also, every Wednesday night, immediately after the show, we have an after party where we live video chat with everyone. It's an open video chat. I always join it. Usually the co-host joins, if not one or two of the other co-hosts. But everyone's able to join, chat, ask questions. What's going on? What's new with you? General hangout, talk about the show, talk about other things that we didn't talk about on the show, get my opinion. Usually well lubricated. And it's awesome. Also, head on over to craftcomputing.store. I've got what I think is the best all-around collection of merch. Veronica has the best shirts, but I think I have all-around the best collection of merch. Also designed 100% in-house and made in-house right here by me. I etched these glasses out in my garage, believe it or not, as well as the coasters, whiskey stones, bottle openers. My favorite in case of DNS. That's a fun one. It's all made out in the garage by me. And that's going to do it for episode 366 of Talking Heads. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, we'll see you next week.